Talking about finance and money in the UK is a huge taboo. We're afraid of speaking about our finances in fear of being and having a big ego. But this is exactly why I love YouTube. So many people are sharing their finances and how much they earn. But it's not out of ego or bragging as we would traditionally associate with sharing information about money. It's to inspire others and help those less financially educated to see into a world where they aspire to be and sparking that fire and passion inside of somebody to save more and build their wealth. And that's what this video is all about. By making sure you have enough money by each major age milestone in your life, you can ensure that you don't fall short when you're older, and you can also compare yourself against the higher end and the average in the UK. By starting early and saving more often at a younger age, you can really benefit yourself when you're older. For people who start saving in their 40s or 50s, they're not left with much in retirement. Whereas if you start in your 20s, you can pay for the nice holidays, you can get a nice house, you can buy a great car, because you will have had a lifetime of compounding growth to really benefit from a decent pot of money by the time you retire. I was inspired to make this video after watching Andre Jick and Graham Stephan both cover similar topics in the US, but no one's really talking about this in the UK, so I wanted to, in this video, explore the equivalent of the UK on how much you should have by every single age milestone. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Matt, I work for a bank by day, I invest in property on the side, and on this channel we explore all things money, finance, and property investing to help people lead a more financially savvy life. So firstly, before we jump into the age milestones, we need to understand how to work out net wealth. To work out net wealth, all you need to do is look at what you currently have in savings and value of your assets. That could be a mixture of your savings account, your pension, if you have an ISA or stocks and shares ISA. If you have a house, how much equity do you have in the house by looking at the value of the property minus the outstanding mortgage. And I guess as well, if you have any kind of weird or wonderful assets and there are certain things that people collect that are worth money, then add the value of those on too. Add this all together and that will give you a total net worth. You then need to look at all of your liabilities. So do you have a loan that you need to pay off? Or maybe you have some credit card debt. You might have other expensive items that you're paying off and that cost you every single month, or there's a sum that you need to pay off. One thing I wouldn't include is a student loan. If you watch a US video, student loans I believe are quite different, whereas in the UK, a student loan doesn't feel like real debt and it's almost just like paying additional tax through your salary. And if you earn below £25,000, you don't pay any student loan anyway. So exclude student loans from your net wealth, otherwise that will reduce it by another like 40, 50k. So I've been tracking my net worth since I was 22 years old, and if we take a look here, I started with £10,000 in net wealth in 2015 when I was 22 years old. And every single year I've been tracking the net wealth just to have a look and see. So you can see that by the time between 2015 and 16, I was a year older, I managed to save an extra £8,299, adding my total net wealth to £18,300, which was an 83% increase. So over time, I saved £8,000. The next year, I added £16,000 to my wealth, and then another £19,000 to my wealth. And then when I bought a flat, and plus equity and other things, I added £46,000 in a year to my wealth. By this point, I was over £100,000, so by age 26, I had a six-figure net wealth. And then at 27, I've added another £66,000 to my wealth in 2020, which gives me a grand net worth total of £167,000, £350. And as you can see, every year I'm trending around 60 to 80% growth year on year. I think after 2021, that's going to shrink a little bit because things here that are skewed include my property and the equity that I've got, and yeah, I don't know, it might be possible, who knows, but we'll see. Now, how much should you have saved by every age? Now, looking at the data, I'm above the average, and I work in London, I have a great job in the city that pays very well, and I invest my money wisely, so I feel like I'm going to be at the top of that distribution curve. So if you're 20 years old, you should be worth £0. Now, this is good because in your 20s, you are just starting out. You might have just graduated from university, you might be starting a business, starting your career, paying off any student debts that you might have that isn't your student loan, that's just your like day-to-day spending. However, that doesn't mean don't save anything. You should start saving in your 20s because your 20s typically is the time of your life where you'll see the fastest salary grow. So this is the time to really shine and flourish and change jobs and try and make as much money as possible. According to the Office for National Statistics, statistics, people between 22 and 30 years old, on average, 40% of those have no savings whatsoever. 10% of people have between £2,000 and £3,000 saved, and around 40 to 50% have a good £6,000 saved in savings accounts or stocks and shares in an ISA. So now we move on to 30 years old. So when you're 30, you should have the equivalent of 1 year's annual gross salary saved through your wealth, whether that's cash in a bank account, in savings, in a stocks and shares ISA, or it could also be across your pension and the equity in your own home. Now, the average rough salary in the UK is about £32,000, and let's go a little bit above this, but according to the Office for National Statistics, the sweet spot is £40,000. So by 30 years old, you need 40k across your net wealth. But by the time you hit 40, this is where compounding starts to take effect and the numbers start to shoot up. So when you're 40 years old, you should have around £150,000 of net wealth. This is across your pension, your savings, and your house equity all put together to make this particular figure. And by this point, you should have around 3 times your annual gross salary. Also assuming that your salary has gained over time and you have a salary of around £50,000 by the time you're 40 years old. When you're 50, this is when things get really exciting. You should have £650,000 in your total wealth by that age. But by this point in life, you might be mortgage free, therefore you've got a huge amount of cash put into your home. It could have increased in value massively over the span of 20 to 30 years, and that's where a lot of this wealth will come from. Also, you will have had time in your pension that's been in the stock market for about 20 years or so to really gain momentum and value over time. So even though this sounds like a very unobtainable goal, over time and due to compounding, it's actually quite an easier figure to make, providing you start saving early in your 20s. And by the time you're 60, you should have £1 million in your net wealth. Now, this sounds like a huge sum of money. Again, you will have had an entire lifetime of a property value increase, of the stock market where your pension is stored, general savings, if you've been smart enough to invest in any other assets as well. So if you think about it now, the average home really only costs £230,000. I say only, that's still a huge sum of money. But if you've got into buy-to-let properties, or you've been investing in something or started a business, then you don't really need that much of a turnover or that many properties to have like kind of general wealth of £1 million. And £1 million today is worth less than £1 million 40 years ago, and it'll be worth even less in 40 more years' time when I'm ready to retire. So £1 million isn't as much as what it used to be. And if it counts for anything, when you're 70 years old, this goes down to about 750k. The reason is you might have taken a lump sum out of your pension and bought some really nice things like a swanky new car, or upgraded the house, or given some of your money to your children or grandchildren. So typically this is where your wealth starts to go down because you're not earning as much money. And one thing you should consider here is how long is that going to last? Now, £750,000 sounds like an extortionate amount of money, but the reality is that you could still live at this point for another 20 years. So when you start to divide that all out, you really only have about £25,000 to £30,000 a year that you can safely use before you run out of money by the time you hit 90. Obviously, if your money's still invested, you'll have compounding growth from there, so that £750,000 could still grow. But the general crux of all of this, and the point behind this video, is that the earlier you start saving, the better to start building some of that wealth. Even if it's just £5, £10, £20 a month, get saving, put it into stocks and shares, and you'll be surprised what you can achieve in just 1 year. Also, the big caveat behind all of this, even though the data is from the Office for National Statistics, it's by no means the average. When you look at the raw graph, you can see that the numbers I've chosen are where the majority of people are, but actually when you start to break it down by different and lower kind of groups and what people earn, there's actually a really wide distribution of people who actually don't have that much when they're 70 years old. So 1 million actually is a lot for someone who's 60 years old, but a lot of people don't have anywhere near as much as that. Some people only have 100, 200, 300,000, and there's a big difference in the UK. So this isn't purely about the average, it's about what the kind of prime people would have in that particular age category, and what I would personally want to aim for being 27 years old and trying to plan my financial future. I hope you found this video useful or inspiring, or it gave you a bit of food for thought on what you should be doing with your own finances. If you're interested in some of my other videos, I did a great one here of how I bought a flat worth £600,000 at age 25, or I've also got a fantastic playlist which teaches you all about the basics of property investing in the UK. So feel free to choose one of these videos, and I'll see you on the other side.